Hello, my name is Joe, and this is Sierra Specialty Auto. Welcome back to the shop. I have a couple of jobs that I think are probably too short for their own video, so I'm going to combine them into a second installment of quick fixes. Before we get into that, though, let's take a look at what came in the mail. I got my envelope from Black Book Publications. Of course, most of YouTube by now knows that these are the special edition Engineers Black Books with the logo of the 2019 Barzy Industrial Bash, When Hell Freezes Over. And it must have, because I've got the book here to prove it. So let's dig this out, see what we find. This is one of the personalized versions. I got a YouTube creator, one of my favorite, but this was a hard deal. I ended up with a list of 5 YouTube creators who are really important to me, and I was not able to narrow it down any further, so I more or less drew a straw. This was a random selection from the 5. So let's see where this went. All right, this is from Mr. Pete, Tubal Cain, Lyle Peterson, to Joe. Turned out that Mr. Pete had more books to sign than anyone else at the bash. I believe there were 50 of them for Mr. Pete to sign. So that's kind of fun. I've wanted a copy of this book for a long time, and now I have not only a copy but a special copy, one of these limited edition signed books signed by Mr. Pete. So thank you much, Lyle. I appreciate it. All right, let's get on with our machining content. We're going to start with a camera tripod that needs a minor repair. So, as they say, on with the show. This is a tripod I recently purchased on eBay. It is a Velbon, there we have it, a Velbon VGB3. We have another of these tripods that has served us very well, and we like it. I don't believe they're available anymore. So I found one, a really good price for one on eBay, and bought it. There's a minor issue with it. Now, I'm not going to blame the seller because I really don't know that he knew. I believe it was somebody who acquired this from an estate and was reselling it. This tripod has a brace arrangement here, which is supposed to come up against a stop in this groove. And I don't know if I can get that groove to show really well. We'll see on the replay. I believe that there was originally a black plastic collar molded onto that groove that provided a stop for this bracket. Without the stop, let me loosen this up. Without the stop, this will run all the way off the bottom. I need to get you a little closer in here. My field of view, I think the camera swivel mount relaxed there and let the camera down, it will come all the way off beyond the bottom of the post, and of course then is not holding the post in alignment, and also is not restraining the legs from going out too far. So I need a way to restore a stop on here. I can't do anything on the inside because I still have to let the post come down through there. So my idea is to use this shallow groove, not very deep. It's the parent material here is about 1 200,000. Let's see if I can get a dimension on this groove. The groove is about 95 thousandths. So there's enough to hook onto a retaining ring, but probably not enough to keep the ring from being bumped out, from expanding. I have, this is from a brake cylinder rebuild kit. This is an OEM style retaining ring from a master cylinder rebuild kit. It has no ears on the outside or the inside, and that's why it's attractive to me for this job. The ID as it lays in my hand is about 15 thousandths smaller than this groove here. I figure if I snap this on to that groove and then measure the OD, which is going to be in the neighborhood of 1 and probably about 1 and 130 thousandths. Then I'm going to take this piece of aluminum bar stock and I'm going to make a thin collar, almost like a washer, a little deeper, maybe 1/4 of an inch deep, with a counterbore inside that will just fit over this snap ring when it's in place in the groove. And that collar will prevent the snap ring from expanding. It will force it to be a tight fit. And then I'm going to back that up with an O-ring. And the O-ring will serve two purposes. Number one, it will keep that collar down tight against the snap ring, the snap ring, and it will also provide a bumper when this plastic collar comes down and hits the aluminum collar. There will be a cushion in there. So first thing I want to do is get this. There's just not any good way to hold this where you guys can see it well. I'm going to fit this on here. That is a good looking fit. I like the way that fits. So be sure we have a good and accurate measurement using a micrometer instead of a dial caliper. We are looking at 1 and 160 thousandths. Well, actually 1 and 158. 1 inch and 20 thousandths. Write that down. 1.020. And now I think we can go to the lathe and start working on this piece of bar stock. Let's face this off. There's a big chamfer on the end of the material I have to remove to get back to full diameter stock. Center drill, and then I'm going to take it out to 3/4 of an inch Then we'll bore our 2 steps, polish up the outside, part it off. Not a whole lot to this operation. I need, I'm going to go 3/8 of an inch or so. Let's bore to that depth. Ended up being probably closer to 7/16 of an inch. I'm going to set my carriage stop at about that depth, pretty close, not critical, and go to 1 20/20. We're starting at 3/4, so I'll touch off and start working out. That should be around 950, and it is 9:46. Let's take another 60. On a spring pass, and use the internal micrometer to get a good accurate measurement here, and we are 1 11. Let's go 1 and let's go 7 more. And I am following with a spring pass each time. That's a hair under 20. That's pretty close. I don't want a tight fit, but I do want a snug fit. All right, so let's bring this carriage stop out. I'm going to go for, I said 1/8 of an inch. Let's zero the DRO and set the carriage stop. Need a couple more thousandths on the micrometer adjustment. And that'll be close enough for what we're doing here. All right, now we come out another 40 thousandths of an inch. See where that got us. One and 52. Let's take about 6 more and see what that looks like. Again, for what we're doing, this is way more accuracy than we need, but it's a good habit to get into. That's just about 1 and 58. I'll try to get maybe one more. I want to leave that a pretty snug fit over that snap ring. So I'm going to get, it'll be 8/10 of an inch according to my DRO. A little bit of a hit with a deburring tool, and now let's part that at 1/4 inch thick. So there's 0 on X, and we need the width of the cutter, which is a 1/16 and 1/4 inch, 5/16. Let's take it to 312 1/2. And part this thing off. First, let's shine it up just a little bit. That's pretty ugly looking. Slow that down, put a little abrasive cloth. How does that look? That was 100 grit. I think that's adequate. See if we can get that to run true enough to chamfer the inside edges there. What I'll do is bring the drill chuck up against it. Now let's back it out just a little bit so I can get at the edge of that. There we go. That ought to do it. Just a hair under 1 20,000 ID with a counterboard, just a hair under 1 60,000. Let's go see if that'll work on our tripod. All right, I need to pop this clip back off because the O-ring and the collar have to go on first. There's the O-ring. Here's the nice snug fit on that collar. It's hanging up on that one edge there, but I got it to go. Just barely going. But that's exactly what we want. Snap the clip on there. Register at the bottom of that groove. And pull the collar back over it. She's a bit tight. Oh, I goofed. I went to 1 60, and I should have gone to 1/160. So I need to work this back up a little bit, get that ring off, and take this back to the lathe. I'll be back in a minute when I hit that dimension I was supposed to be looking for. Okay, let's try this again with the extra 100 thousandths of an inch in there. Should still be a tight fit here, and it is. Get the ring on here. I'm looking at this ring to see if it's like a cut snap rings where it has a sharp edge on one side, but it does not. This appears to be rolled out of wire. I don't see any difference between top and bottom edge. Aha! Look at that. Snap right over. Bring that O-ring down here to provide the cushion. Now we have a bumper here as it comes down, and that does everything we need to do. And this will go pass through as it's supposed to. Very good. That job's done. I like it. Just exactly what I was after. It is time to replace the old heater in the hot tub. We've got this corrosion here. I'll show a close-up of that. The other end is even worse, and I'll show a close-up of that. We've got to disconnect the hoses here and here, and this vent hose here. We've got to disconnect wiring, the ground here, hot center ground up here, and signal wiring, limit and control wiring here. The new heater comes with all the wiring attached, and it appears to be the correct wiring. It looks, as near as I can tell, to be exactly identical. We'll hope, with the exception of the leaks. On a newer hot tub, a person could use hose clamp pliers to clamp off the hoses. This one, this unit is 17, 18 years old, so I am reluctant to squeeze those hoses. I think they would collapse, and this one especially has a special end at the other end. So I prefer to do this kind of work when I can, when the hot tub has been drained. And it is drained now, so there may be a little bit of water leaking out from the hoses, but there won't be much because the tank is empty. I'll set this aside. I'll try not to get in the way too much, but I can't make any promises because I do have to get in here and do what needs to be done. These are keyed, so they're not, it's not possible to confuse them. Set the hose clamp back, get the hose loose and work it off gently. And there's a little bit of water leaking out, not much. Go after the big clamps. These are always a nuisance. I got that one loose. Now I'll be in front of you for a moment. Got to work this bushing, protective bushing out. Just squeeze it a little bit with pliers. And we'll need to reuse that, so we put that aside. We have just the two large hoses left. I'll probably be in front of you while I'm getting these loose. I'm going to get a bigger screwdriver to use to put a little pressure on that hose. There's one. Too bad that wasn't the easy one. The other one is a lot harder to get to because it's in the back. I wonder if these snap ring pliers will get in there and put a little pressure. Aha! That is working. Getting it started. And I think I can finish by wiggling. Aha! So there's the old one out. Get that out of the way. That thing poured water down my leg. Glad it's clean water. Get the cable started in the right direction here. The main cable. When you're in, let's get the hoses done first. That's always the hardest part. There's one. Now for the clip. And she's on. Have that kind of luck with one more, I'll be a happy guy. And she's on. All right, so I'm a happy guy. And the vent hose. All right, there's all the hoses done. Now while I'm working on the electrical connections, I'm going to start running the water in here so we can do a leak test. Well, also because I need to fill up the tub anyway. Oh! We have the water running. Now we can start on the electrical connections. The ground connects to a lug provided on the heater. Tighten that up quite well. Our main power cord wants to come up. Yeah, it doesn't really matter, just whatever it takes to get it there. We'll put this clamp, I don't know how well that's going to show. This is just a standard plastic strain relief. Just slide it over the cable. Well, I think probably what I'll do is go ahead and make these connections first, so I know how much of it has to come in here. So we have the two hot connections. Well, the ground connection is the lowest one. I'll get that out of the way, and then I can work on top of it. The green goes to ground, and the other two, white and black in this case, are not polarity sensitive. This is alternating current, so it does not matter where they go. Either terminal in either direction. All right, now I'll bring this up here. Tell you what I think I'm going to do, especially since this connector came apart. Looking at that other cable, the diameter, this is about a 1/16 of an inch larger. I'm going to go to plan B here and put a Romex connector in there. I'll probably have to round out that hole. I have here a standard 3/4 inch Romex connector, big enough to fit over the cable. By the way, I checked the dimensions. The old cable is about a 1/16 of an inch smaller than the new one, which explains the difficulty of getting this in place. This, of course, is well, I don't know, I was going to say it was a round hole, but it does have flats on the side. This is a double D shape hole. Those flats may, aha, look at that, those flats do engage. So I don't have to do anything to the hole. I had brought out a die grinder with a carbide burr to round out that hole in the plastic, the double D hole, but I don't need to. Got the wrong pliers here, but I think I can make them work. I should have water pump pliers or that's pretty good. That'll do. Now, feed the cord through there. Probably have to take these terminals in one at a time. I don't think they'll all fit through together. Two of them will. Then follow with the third. Bring them around where I can get at them. Now again, I'm going to make the connections first. And then set the clamp. All right. All that remains is to tighten the screws. And that should do it. Make sure these will tuck back under the cover. Now we have the sensor connections, the limit switch and control switch. And these are coded for their respective connectors. Just plug on and go snap. And dress them out through this slot in the cover, nicely designed to shed any potential water out of the cover instead of in. So let's double check. We've got both of the sensor connections made. We've got the ground connected. We've got the two hots and the ground connected. We have the cables securely clamped. We have the two main hoses on and the vent hose. I think we're about done. Just have to wait now until this fills up enough to do a leak test before I put the big cover on. I'll go ahead and put this cover on now because I don't anticipate any issues with the electrical. And this job is finished. So even with the need to go get a new clamp, this was still a pretty quick fix. Well, there we have another couple of small jobs done. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already. Hope you'll comment if you have anything to add or offer or ask. I hope you'll come back and visit the shop again. Thank you for watching.